Today, I judge a game by its name. And you know what? I'm pretty glad I did. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games. And today, I do the review of Vice Project Doom for the NES.
Second Opinion Games.
Vice Project Doom was made by a company called American Sammy, a company that's almost completely unheard of, but they did have a few games under their belt, like Ys Book 3 on the Super Nintendo, or the Roll & Curse series on the original Game Boy. Also, they did Viewpoint on the Sega Genesis. So, not really games that stand out and scream awesome, but they are pretty well made. And the game also starts off with tons of narrative, but I really don't like reading, so I skip past that. And then I get to see our main character chat with a girl while sitting behind the wheels of his car, talking about how he's gonna run down a criminal, kind of like how the beginning of Mad Max, the first one, actually was. So then I noticed right away that this is a driving game, sort of like Spy Hunter, only it seems quite a bit faster. Now you can shift gears between 1, 2, and 3, but that doesn't actually make the vertical scrolling of it go any faster. No, that just maneuvers your car around much, much quicker, and you have infinite machine guns that seem to be pretty overpowerful. Also, check out this not sprite scaling. Every time you hit some traffic cones or something, they just fly up into the air, and I really like this visual effect. After a while, you come face to face with a giant dump truck just fires missiles and other crap at you. Eventually, you blow it up, and then another cutscene, because this has to be just like Ninja Gaiden with its crazy cutscenes. And there's, of course, some babes in there, just for good measure. I'm not sure if she's actually holding her hand over her boobs, or if that's her shirt. It all seems to be the same color. It kind of looks a little weird. And then, my mind is blown. This game is a Ninja Gaiden clone, with a few driving stages added in, as the majority of the game is just side-scrolling ninja action. Except you don't have a sword as much as this looks like one. No, it's more of an energy whip. And that's not the only trick up your sleeve. You also have a gun, or what I like to call a blaster. And finally, you have some grenades. Now, grenades go all the way across the screen with a pretty decent-sized explosion and can take out enemies that require 2 hits to kill. Your gun doesn't really have that good of a range. 2 bullets can be on screen at once, which means that you can use them to kill enemies that require 2 hits or just fire 1 shot at a time, but your whip is definitely your main weapon here, and it does create sort of like a barrier all over you. A lot of times you could hit enemies behind you with your whip, and it's so fast that with turbo buttons, you could really destroy enemies really quickly, which makes the game really, really fun. Just running through these levels with your great acrobatic skills, destroying the enemies, all feels completely great. And it feels a lot more fair than Ninja Gaiden as well. With infinite continues, means you're probably gonna see the end of this game after a couple of frustrating levels in between. I gotta say, the graphics for an NES game are simply the best. All the levels feel alive. Whether you're in a sewer, a jungle, Chinatown, it doesn't matter, because look at the backgrounds. Everything is so crystal clear. You're never too confused of what's going on, even if sometimes there is some pits that you're just not quite ready for. Platforms that crumble beneath your feet, ladders that you have to go up and manipulate your way through around the levels, and spinning things, waterfalls that can push you back and forth depending on which way the current's going, and everything just feels really alive, especially the boss battles. The graphics are terrific, even if all the bosses have very easy patterns to recognize, which means that none of them are going to cause you too much trouble. Now, you might die 1 or 2, maybe even 3 or 4 times on the boss, but eventually you're going to figure out the pattern, and most of them I downed on my very first try. It's more the stages being the problems for me than anything, and luckily those infinite continues mean I'm not going to get too frustrated with this game. At least, not until the very end. About a third of the way through the game, something else happened that completely blew my mind. Another way of playing, a rail shooter level, where this time you have to mow down ninjas and other things. Now you're probably going to run out of ammo in your gun pretty quickly, so don't be afraid to use grenades too. And if you're on 0 ammo or 0 grenades, well, just wait about 3 seconds. In 3 seconds, then you'll get 5 more bullets in your gun if you're at 0, and if you're at 0 grenades, 3 seconds later, you'll get 2 more grenades. Using this is pretty much the only way I can work my way through this level, alternating between shooting my bullets and grenades, and picking up the little bullet icons gives you 10, or grenades icons gives you 5 more of those. And they're also throughout the side-scrolling levels as well. There's also coins in the side-scrolling levels. 100 of them gives you an extra life, Mario style, but they're not just scattered all around. You actually have to destroy enemies to get those. There's also some juice bottles that regain some life, and meat that boost your life dramatically, because who doesn't love it when people drop their meat behind? That attention to detail in this game is really amazing. In the car scenes, when you shift gears, a little bit of fire shoots out from the back of your car, which you could actually use to kill enemies, but it's short and kind of pointless. I don't really do it that much. There's also the running ducking maneuver that I probably mentioned earlier, but I don't use it at all throughout the entire way through the game, because I'm using the NES Advantage joystick and it just doesn't let me do it. I think it's a good trade-off for the turbo buttons. The story is elegant and terrific. I know I didn't really touch on the story at all in this review because I'm all about the gameplay and I want you to experience that for yourself. And all the weapons, how they work and how they work together, really bring this game to be the complete package. Now let's check out the final level and how crazy these bosses really get. If you thought the beginning stages in this game were hard, well, towards the end of the game, they crank it up to extreme. There are pits everywhere. Enemies that come at you at all sides, non-freaking stop, so you always have to keep pushing forward as hard and as fast as you can. And, oh my god, does it ever get frustrating. Sometimes when the areas beneath your feet just break away and you fall into a pit, and you're just ready to freak out. On top of it, sometimes enemies jump out of nowhere and they pretty much have to hit you, and you have to damage boost your way through the later half of this game. It gets pretty frustrating. Luckily, they keep on giving you meat and health as you go along, so it's not too bad. Now, the second to the last boss of the game is a clone of yourself. Pretty interesting choice, and he has the same weapon loadouts as you. Now, there is a way to crouch run your way to kill him, but I think just sticking with the gun is the easiest. Keep your distance and unload some shots into him, duck his bullets, and keep shooting him. When you run out of bullets, use your bombs, and he's dead. And then the last boss is truly terrifying. He does this sort of double jump thing, and you always have to land right in between his feet. And you have to be pretty spot on with this. Then you have to hit him a couple times, and then move slightly to the side and hit him a couple more times. Then he'll jump up in the air and probably hit you, and he takes a ton of damage from you when he does this maneuver. If he happens to land on you, it's pretty much game over. You're dead. And you will die on him a lot, and a lot, and a lot. It's just ridiculous. Oh, in true NES fashion, when you do die on him, you go back to the beginning of the stage to go through all this craziness with jumping all over again. And you have to fight those last two bosses back to back, which is just insult to injury and incredibly awful. Unfortunately, with enough patience, you still will accomplish your mission and beat the game. Now there is tons of different side-scrolling stages. There are 2 of those driving stages and 2 of those rail shooting stages. And the game itself, Vice Project Doom, is probably the most underrated hidden gem on the NES. And I don't throw that term around lightly. Now, a game this good that came out late in the NES's life cycle you think would be super expensive, but no, you could find it for about $40. The graphics are great, the music is okay, the storyline is actually really good, but there is some spots there where it gets kind of confusing who's talking because they don't actually tell you whose words are coming out of whose mouths. You just have to follow it for yourself. But overall, this is the complete package and simply a must-have for anyone who loves the NES. And of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. I had a great, frustrating time making it because Vice Project Doom can be a very infuriating game at some spots. And it's one that I just could not miss out on. I had to tell you guys all about it because it's just beautiful. The graphics are some of the best on the system, and it is extremely underrated. So if you think you have a great underrated game that you want me to know a little bit more about, please leave a comment down below. I've actually been making lists and lists of games that people have suggested that I've played, so I just want to add on to that so I can do more games in the future. So until later, I'll see you again, guys.